In 1898, a British lord arrived at Buckingham Palace in a carriage pulled by 6 zebras. So why has nobody ever replaced horses with zebras? It's not because no one ever tried. It's not even because they're aggressive. The real answer changed human history. And it explains why horses became one of the very few animals we ever truly domesticated. The answer isn't in the zebra's mind, but in its body. And it's more lethal than you think. It's something that can kill a zebra during an attempt to tame it. And it has nothing to do with its character. How exactly this works is the real heart of the story. But first, meet the man who was sure he'd already proven the opposite. That man was Lord Walter Rothschild. His zebras really did pull a carriage. Individual animals were ridden and harnessed. But this is exactly where the mistake lies. Taming a single animal is something completely different from domesticating a whole species. Taming means getting one individual used to people. Domestication means a whole population changes genetically over hundreds of generations. So Rothschild's carriage did not prove that zebras can be domesticated. It proved the opposite. It always stopped at the single animal. To understand why, we go back 4 million years. Horses, donkeys, and zebras all belong to the same genus, Equus. They arose in North America and spread from there into the Old World. About 4 million years ago, the line of true horses split off. On the other side stood the ancestors of zebras and donkeys. The zebra and donkey species themselves fanned out less than 1 million years ago, so a zebra is not a more primitive, more backward horse. Both lines are exactly the same age and share the same ancestor. What separates them is only the environment each line survived in. The zebra line stayed in Africa, in the most predator-rich habitat on Earth. Lions, hyenas, and wild dogs were among the threats they faced every single day. The horse line moved into the vast Eurasian steppe. And there, after the Ice Age, the big hunters almost entirely vanished. 2 nearly identical animals, 2 completely different worlds. In one of them, panic was a daily question of life and death. To understand what really kills a zebra during capture, we look inside its body. What actually happens in a zebra that believes it's been caught? In that moment, a wave of stress hormones floods the body. Adrenaline and noradrenaline released in extreme amounts. The whole body switches to flight. The muscles work at maximum power. Far beyond what the body can withstand, the muscles flood with acid. Collapsing muscle tissue releases huge amounts of lactic acid, so much that the blood itself turns acidic. This acid destroys tissue, in the legs, in the trunk, and in the heart muscle itself. Tiny blood clots block the finest vessels. Patches of dead muscle form in the skeleton and the heart at once. The animal can survive the capture at first, and die hours or days later of kidney or heart failure. This dying has a name, capture myopathy. It happens when a wild animal is captured, hence the name. Not the struggle, not an injury. Pure fear kills the zebra. In humans, there's a startling equivalent. Broken heart syndrome, medically Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. After extreme emotional shock, a person can suffer acute heart failure. The same stress hormones, the same measurable enzyme signature in the blood. A broken heart, in the literal sense. Why does this hit zebras so much harder than horses? Here the researchers argue it comes down to predator pressure. In a habitat full of hunters, a split second of hesitation is fatal. The most violent, fastest flight response survives and passes on its genes. The zebra kept this extremely sensitive panic switch, as an adaptation to a pressure that never eased over millions of years. The horse gradually lost it. On the steppe, without those hunters, a calmer nervous system was no disadvantage. The donkey, too, the third close relative, lost this hypersensitivity and was domesticated. And now comes the decisive point for us. Domestication needs time and patience across many generations. You select the calmest animals and keep breeding from them. But with zebras, that very capture injures or kills the calmest adults. Then you can never keep enough of them alive. The breeding loop never starts. Stress kills the candidates before selection can even begin. In colonial East Africa, people tried for decades, again and again. It failed for decades at the same point, despite countless attempts. A 2024 modeling study compared domesticated and wild hoofed animals trait by trait. In the end, only a single factor stayed statistically meaningful: susceptibility to this very capture myopathy. Not body size, not diet, not even social structure. In this model, at least, lethal stress beat everything else. Long before this study, one man gave a famous explanation. The geographer Jared Diamond called it the Anna Karenina principle. After the first line of Tolstoy's novel, "All happy families are alike. Every unhappy one is unhappy in its own way," applied to animals. Only a species that meets every condition at once can be domesticated. A single disqualifying trait is enough, and domestication fails. Diamond named 6 criteria: cheap food, fast growth, and reliable breeding in captivity, a good-natured disposition, no tendency to panic, and a herd with a clear hierarchy. Horse and zebra share the herd structure and the diet. But on disposition and panic, the zebra fails hard. Diamond even describes a startling trick during lasso capture. A zebra watches the approaching rope and jerks its head away at the last moment. This observation comes from Diamond himself, not from a laboratory, but it fits the picture of an animal that constantly slips out of reach. Diamond also claims zebras injure more American zookeepers than tigers. That often-quoted figure can't actually be verified. It stays his claim. Diamond's list is a strong framework. The 2024 study sharpens it. The stress axis was decisive. A few things are worth saying honestly here. That zebras bite and kick without warning is genuinely true. In 2021, a Japanese zookeeper died after a zebra bite severed an artery. But this aggression is the symptom, not the cause. It's the visible part of a nervous system on permanent alert. Studies suggest zebras keep higher stress levels even after generations in captivity. And that one significant factor applies to this one model. It doesn't mean size or social structure never matter. And what does all this mean for the horse in the stable? The domestic horse still carries the basic blueprint of a flight animal. The panic switch is dampened, but it's still there. Capture myopathy is documented in wild horses and Przewalski's horses, and even in extremely stressed domestic horses, like when loading half-wild ones. Calm at loading, at the vet, at first contact isn't a question of character. It reaches into a deeply wired system. The same system that, in the zebra, decides between life and death. So the horse isn't tame because humans chose it. It's tame because its ancestors fit through a narrow biological bottleneck. A bottleneck that shut out almost every other species. Of roughly 150 large herbivores, only a few made it through. The zebra, as close as it stands to the horse, was never among them. Next time a horse stands calmly beside you, that calm is a rare exception of evolution. And a striped relative that could never develop this same calm. If you're fascinated by the ancient biology hidden inside ordinary horses, you're in the right place.